All right, it's Hickey at Hickey's Custom Resto, and I just wanted to come on to do a quick video. Been a little down and feeling rough lately, and I've been watching a lot of videos. And in the last week, I've seen some Uncle Tony stuff and some Dead Dodge Garage stuff, and they're talking about not getting discouraged, and especially when it comes to no car is perfect, right? The whole idea that maybe just get something you can afford, something you can drive, and I'm going to try to do a quick video on that. And I'm going to show you, I think I've done something like this before, but anyway, let's update that and do it now. This car right here, everybody wants a B-body, high-end, it's a very desirable body style. Everybody wants a Roadrunner, and then they learn about the GTX, and then they want the GTX. In this case, we've got a Satellite Sport with a lot of nice stuff. I've got a lot of videos on this car. Very cool. It's not a low budget car, but it's not a big high budget car either. So you can find stuff that is doable for some amount of money. All right, here we have this came from California to Canada in 1980. This is a 63 Coupe de Ville. Now, this guy has the means to put a lot of money into this car. So as you can see, there's no glass, no trim. This was a running, driving car. The only flaw is someone put this nasty salmon pink on it. But we knew that the car had been hit in the back, so we're cleaning all that out. We're going to redo this quarter. We're going to metal work it and refinish it. The rest of the car is kind of sand and shoot, but I mean there's some spots here and there. This car could have been a really low budget car, but this guy's we're doing a show-worthy car out of this over time, and we're not in a rush, but it's going to be good. So I have videos on this car where I go under the car. The whole car looks brand new underneath. And under the engine, other than sitting in my body shop full of dust, that's already all restored and clean, and every component on it has been gone through, restored, and rebuilt, and so on and so forth. And somehow he even has the right stickers on some of the stuff. So really cool. I'll have to ask him how he did that, but I'm not a Cadillac guy, so I don't know what's available. Needs a little work down here. That probably rotted out because the car was hit right in that area at one time as well, back in the 80s. So we've got a running, driving car that a guy bought about 12 or so years ago, and he decided to go super high-end. He's doing all white leather interior. He's got a different column dash. Like, he's redoing everything. All the chrome is re-chromed. He's got perfect nickel for the whole car. He has a parts card that he didn't need, but he bought it so he could tear the car apart. It was probably like $1,000 or less. But when he goes to put this together, if there's anything he's not sure about or something he's missing, he has a whole parts card. Another one that was bought in 2011, I think he told me. This was a guy who owned it, sold it, it went to hell. He found it years later, bought the car back. Okay, so here we got a 55 Pontiac. And again, we're talking budgets, right? So what do we got going on here? He knows people that can do small blocks. We're supposed to have about 400 and I think he said 440 horse, maybe 420 horse. There's over 400 horse in a small block, and that's all we need to know, and it's got a good radiator. What else does it got? 70s Corvette Saginaw 4-speed, right? Frame, really good. I don't know what all he's done to the suspension. If anyone comments that they'd like to know, I can ask. But the car is slightly lowered. It's got actually, when this is outside, let me back up some. It has a wicked stance. And the one thing I'll give this car, it doesn't have power steering. But when you get in this car and drive down the road, this thing drives like a modern dream. Really, really well driving car. And it's an older guy who did all the mechanical work himself. About 10, 20 years ago, he told me it had a new interior, so that's still pretty nice. He's got a couple buttons there hanging. He's going to take the backs off, pull them back in. New carpet, or actually, it is a newer carpet, but for some reason, I think it's a little short at the sills, so he got a new carpet for it. The dash is original, and we're not painting the dash. So what do we have here otherwise? So we're talking budgets, right? So it sounds like, horsepower and suspension. He did all the tricks that were cheap that he could do himself in a home garage attached to his house. So what we do have, you know, there's been body work in here and it's starting to come apart, right? This has been repaired. We're gonna have to blast all that out. There's a little bit of old torch welding in there. So we're gonna take all that filler out and fix it. And again, if you had this car at home, now this car started out, and I think I got other videos of, if you look at the roof, it's like a flat black. Well, he was playing around wondering what color to paint the car. So he put flat black on the roof, he put satin black on the hood, he put semi-gloss down one side, a different color on the other side, all black. But you could get in this car, turn the key, and drive it anywhere. In fact, you still can the way it is right now. I mean, look at that hood. I mean, I just call it a day. That's patina, right? So we went to some of the little swollen spots in the filler, and we found some things. But when you clean it all up, the metal's good. This is the worst part of the car right here. So what happened is up into here, there's a quarter panel off of a 55 Chevy, because way back in 1980 whatever, you couldn't get one for the Pontiac. So the back is original, but from there down there, that is off of a Chevy. And then what they did down here to make this shape, somebody actually bent that up and welded it in, and then there's another one back here going to the back. That's not rust. Well, this is right here and right there, but all this, that just wipes off. I think it's just the filler is failing. So what we're going to do, we're likely going to strip all the filler out of both rear quarters, weld up the seams that weren't quite done right or whatever we find, and then just remud the car and paint the fenders. We're going to paint the whole car anyway. You know, you got the same kind of junk down here. You know, down here that was kind of patched, welded together. We're going to sandblast that all out and basically just clean it up and do it over again. We're not putting 20, 30 grand into this car. I'm not going to tell you what we're putting in. Now this side, you can see all the body work and the weirdness. So they didn't redo the whole quarter here. What they did is they did that lower bottom, and they basically, you can actually see the shape of the patch, right, that's square for down there, because they all rot out down there. And then there's brand new rockers that were put on the car after all the other work was done, because apparently those were available. Door gaps and stuff, they are what they are. These 50 cars are kind of terrible. We're going to push this in and adjust it to where it fits kind of nice. Basically, this all lines up. Down at the very bottom, the doors tip out a bit. We're leaving them. Don't care. Customer don't care. He goes, I want the car in satin black. And, you know, just make it clean and decent. He drives this car around all summer long. And, I mean, I think that's great. And he had it parked for a few years because he couldn't do that. You can pick up these 50 cars. If you look around, you get a body out west, you can get them pretty cheap. They need a lot of work. Check out DD Speed Shop, actually. He does a lot of these Tri-5 Chevys and whatnot, and I mean, you don't have to be crazy with them, and I mean, certain models aren't that valuable, so sometimes you get a deal. Small blocks fit in them really well, so do big blocks. So do LS motors, like whatever you want to put. So this thing where everybody's got to have a perfect car, the perfect car. I don't know what that means. I'll tell you what I do know. I know that I have the ability to do pretty high-end restoration work. Now, I mean, there's guys out there that are way better than me, and I admit I'm learning all the time. I was out of the game for like 20-some years, and I got back into it. But the reality is this. Big expensive restoration happening over time, and that's cool. Daily driver restoration on a really, really cool car. Clean it up, paint my car. I want to get 10, 20 more years out of it. Right now, all three of these cars are running, driving cars. This one was purchased about 12 or so years ago, and I think I could tell you that much. I'm pretty sure he picked this up for about $4,000. So let's say $6,000 in today's money. And again, a little bit of beating, what was I going to say? Sun beating on the seats, right? Pink. So paint the car. Learn how to paint. And honestly, when it was all intact, the car looked pretty good, right? So that's a cheap car. He bought this car back in 2011, and I know he bought it for $500 in 2011 in Ontario, Canada. Now, that does sound cheap, but keep in mind, it was toast and nobody wanted a satellite. Now they do, but at that time it was Roadrunner or nothing. Even the GTXs were hot and cold. Where now it's kind of flipped and the oddballs are more. But anyway, it meant a lot of work. The Cadillac you could drive, this was not a driver. But at the end of the day, this might be a cheap way to get you into a 68, 69 B body. This car was owned, and I believe the guy who owns it bought it when he was 14 years old. He's now, I'm guessing, 60s. It's a cool toy. You'd never guess he's that old. I think someone told me he was right around 60. But this is a really cool toy. And this car has been driven many, many years. It has always been a driver. It saw a major body job back around 80, which is the bodywork that's failing. And we know the history because one owner from way back in the late 70s, right? He bought this for $50, threw quarters on it, drove it through high school. Then he cleaned it up once. And then later, he actually kind of did like one of those 90s restorations, but it had nice paint, Krager SS wheels, all the trim was nice. Well, now that it's old and tarnished and the trim is bad, he did find some nice mirrors. We're going to keep those two bumps. The center bumper, whatever goes there is gone, but we do have a piece that goes in the grill. We're going to get rid of all the chrome off that, do the clean look. That costs nothing to do these things, just time, right? This trim is going to go on because it's in beautiful shape, and it goes down here as well. And then above the tail lights and those two strips on the hood. But everything else, we're welding all the holes shut. So it'll be tastefully clean, still have some of the original stuff. The dual mirrors, and they both match. I don't know what they're off of, but they're cool. You know, and this is a turnkey and drive toy. Right, here's your trunk lid. All those holes are going to be welded shut. A lot of cool stuff that don't cost a lot of money. Now, we are going to put expensive paint on the car after the body work is done. I can't remember the name of the stuff. I might have to do a video on it when we paint the car. So if you want to know, wait for that. But it's the same basically semi-gloss black finish that I use on these B-body cars when I do the black on the hood or the stripe around the back. We're just, in this case, we're going to buy a lot of it. We're going to paint the whole car with it because he saw one of the Mopars I did and he goes, I love that black. So that's what's going on the whole entire car with a few touches of shiny. So the last thing I'll show you before we go, just so that you know I'm not full of crap. That's my summer daily right there, and it's an original paint, and that's what I drive. Cheers.